Welcome to Making Money with Laura Sanders, a name you can trust. With over 20 years of real estate experience and selling over 150 homes a year, Laura Sanders is the #1 RE/MAX agent in the state of Florida for 2021. Join us each week as we discuss how to make money through buying and flipping homes to renting versus selling and everything in between. To join the conversation, call in live 888-994-4995, Studio A.
Hi, everyone, and welcome to Making Money with Laura Sanders, and I am your host, Laura Sanders. Tonight, we're talking with Michael Cruz, who is the owner of Floridian Coastline Insurance. And insurance has been a big thing right now. We're getting our renewals. They are astronomical. And one of the things that I tell my customers is that you can't always just stick with the same insurance agent all the time. Sometimes you got to shop it around to find the best deals. And, I really feel like Michael has some really good deals. So welcome, Michael.
Thank you, Laura. Appreciate it.
So what makes between insurance agents? Like, how do you usually seem to sometimes have a better rate with the same coverage as another insurance agent?
So the thing is with us, we just have a lot more carriers than most agents. And we've added to that this year. We've actually added 3 other carriers. Most agents really just focus in one area, Broward or Miami-Dade, and they'll have whatever carriers are active at the time there, like in Broward or in Miami-Dade and Palm Beach. We write statewide, so we do get a lot of carriers that are up north that might not be writing here now, but when they do open here, we already have them. So where those agents don't already have them. So like Cypress, Slide, a lot of the smaller carriers here that don't write a lot here, they'll write up north and then they'll open back up here, and then we'll have prices that no other agent has, which is nice.
Yeah, I even saw, though, that there was another agent writing with Citizens, and I believe that you had also written a quote for the buyer, and your policy was a little less, and it was all the same coverage, which was kind of a little confusing for the buyer, especially.
That one was a newer property, and for some reason with Citizens, on newer properties, when you don't put any mitigation credits, it's cheaper than if you put it. So a lot of agents just don't have the experience and they don't know that. And they'll put the credits in there and then they'll realize, okay, why is it more expensive than this guy's? Well, he's not putting any MIG credits in there because it's newer construction, and you don't need to put them in there. You actually get more credits by not putting the mitigation in there. So that was just experience. That was just an inexperienced agent, unfortunately.
Oh, that's interesting. I never knew that. That's something now that I'm learning. That's interesting. Yeah, exactly. So then we don't need to do the limit and the 4-point. Obviously, you don't need a 4-point on a new property, but
when the property's new. Well, they made it a year now. So if it's less than 20 years old, the property, you don't need a 4-point. The wind mitt you don't need after 2002. So if it's new 2002 or newer, you don't need a wind mitt with Citizens.
So interesting. Yeah. So Citizens has been doing some changes too, though. They've been now saying that if you can get a policy, within 20%, or what is it? How does
20%, that? So if another carrier is within 20% of their premium, they don't want you to put it with Citizens. So essentially, they'll do a takeout and they'll have, homeowner's choice is, 10% more expensive than us. They'll force you to move to homeowner's choice. They won't give you an option.
So, I was thinking about this and I think it's interesting. So you bought your house last year and the bank qualified you on that policy with Citizens, right? And it was, let's just say it was $7,000, right? Now it's going to go up the 20%, right? So that's another, $1,400 additional. That could have been enough money to make somebody not qualify for the loan. So now we're going to see people not, maybe able to afford their homes.
Absolutely. Unfortunately, what we've been doing, sadly, is just removing coverages to get people to a point where they could still afford their homes, which is sad because, we really don't like to do that because, they're shooting themselves in the foot in the event of a claim. But, a lot of times they just can't afford the mortgage payment with the higher premium. So we're removing personal property, we're removing stuff that the bank does not require, and just ensuring just the minimum that the bank requires to keep them from being forced closed. So, that's really what this year has been, a lot of that. And that's been a lot of our work this year, is getting people's policies back down.
So let's talk about insurance claims. Let's talk about water damage. Let's talk about water coverage. That seems to be something that we need to get out to the public to let them know that most carriers don't have water coverage anymore, which is usually, for me, the biggest claim out there.
What they do is they sublimit. So you'll have, let's say, $400,000 in coverage. If you have a sublimit for water damage, usually it's $10,000. So if you have a leak in your house, you're going to think, oh, I got $400,000 in coverage. No, they're going to write you a check for 10 grand and they're going to walk, and you're going to be responsible for the rest. Some carriers like Southern Oak, they do a percentage of the dwelling. So I believe it's 5% of the dwelling covered. So they give you a little bit more than other carriers do. And then you have other carriers like Tip Tap that's full water. So when you get a price from Tip Tap, a lot of people will be like comparing it to a Citizens price, and they'll be like, oh, well, Tip Tap is, or let's say an Edison price, Tip Tap's $1,000 more expensive. Well, what you're not seeing behind the scenes is that Tip Tap is giving you a full, let's say you have $400,000 in dwelling, you got $400,000 in water damage coverage, where Edison's only giving you 10 grand. That's where the price difference is coming from. So,
but when insurance,
no one seems to really care about that right now. It's more,
but they should care about it sometimes. About it, they need somebody educated to kind of explain to them that this is how the policy is. This is what's included in the policy, right? And you need to know that for $1,000, like, don't worry about your screen enclosure. You can live without a screen enclosure, right? But crazy enough, this morning around 7:30, I got a call from another realtor asking me questions about insurance. And, we're going to go to commercial break. We're going to see our awesome sponsors. And then when we come back, I want to talk to you about that, because, these claims are definitely something people are not thinking about. And you don't want to be silly about a couple of dollars. So let's go to commercial break and see our amazing sponsors. We have JK Closing Attorneys, we have Max Fish, and we also have GPS Title. So we'll be right back.
At JK Closing Attorneys, we do all of the same things that a title company does, but with the benefits of being a law office. We can help with residential real estate, short sales, commercial real estate, refinances, 1031 exchanges, and FRIPTA withholding.
Contact JK Closing Attorneys today at 954-332-3111. Again, that is 954-332-3111.
Whether you're buying, selling, refinancing, or building your dream home, you have a lot riding on your loan specialist. Max Fish, a top 1% mortgage loan officer in the nation, will give you a same-day qualifying quote. Max Fish is committed to providing his customers with mortgage services that exceed their expectations. Ensuring that you make the right choice for you and your family is his ultimate goal. Contact Max Fish today at 954-729-6933 or max.fisch@nwmcorp.net.
You have been watching Making Money with Laura. For more information, contact Laura Sanders at 954-650-0827 or visit her website at theloracell.com. And now back to the show.
Hi, everyone, and welcome to Making Money with Laura Sanders. And I am your host, Laura Sanders. I am a realtor with RE/MAX. And the reason why I do this show is because I want you to call me to sell your home or help you find a home. So definitely give me a call at 954-650-0827, or you can go to my website at lauracell.com. Anyway, welcome back, Michael. So this morning, 7:30, I get a call from another realtor I've known for about 20 something years. His daughter just closed on her house yesterday, and the toilet, underneath, which actually sticks out of the wall, the valve,
It's always
had, I guess, burst
yeah.
and flooded the entire townhouse. So it ruined it ruined the bedrooms, it ruined the kitchen, it did a whole bunch, ruined the kitchen cabinets. So long story short, he calls me this morning and says, what do I do? And I said, well, first thing you do is read your policy. Don't go calling the insurance company until you know what your coverage is, because the minute you call, you got a claim. Like they're going to ding you, right? Then
Well, what I always say is call the agent first.
Right.
Before you call the carrier, you call the agent, tell them exactly what happened. And they will, ideally with my clients, I coach them, I tell them exactly, I say, first thing you need to do, if it's a big water damage claim, you need to call Joe Taylor Restoration. That's the restoration company that most of the carriers, 99% of them, use, and they tend not to overcharge the insurance company. So at the end of the day, when you do go to put through a claim, it looks more legit. They're not going to, not that they're not going to investigate it, but they're not going to think it's a fraudulent claim or that you're trying to, hike up the prices. That's essentially what it is. If you use kind of like those fly-by-night restoration companies, you tend to run into that issue where they think, all right, this is going to be an inflated claim. We're going to investigate it to the nines. Tends to drag it out a lot further. If you have a citizens policy, you have to use the restoration company that Citizens assigns you. You can't choose your own restoration company because then you will lose out on the water damage coverage altogether, essentially. I mean, you'll have like a much more limited water damage coverage. So if you have a citizens policy, you call your agent first. The agent's going to tell you, call Citizens directly and get the restoration company directly from them. So it really just comes down to the carrier that you have. Essentially, anybody besides Joe Taylor or Rytech, one of those two is going to be the best option. If it's Citizens, you call Citizens first, and that's your first move. Call Citizens and let them hire whoever they want.
Isn't Citizens usually though the $10,000 coverage though?
Technically, it is, but they have a policy within Citizens that if you use their people, they will pay out the full claim.
Okay. So
but it's limited, and they're gonna, so it's not technically full water. I mean, you technically have limited water damage coverage, but there is a route to go to get more. So I don't call it full water. It's more like a in between somewhere. So, I mean, I don't want to tell anybody it's full water. It's really not. It's just, if you go through their people, you'll get the majority of it paid for.
And there's no guarantee that would happen.
No, there's not. Like I tell everybody, I say it's not guaranteed, but you have a chance. It's better than a straight limited water damage policy. So.
And how long do these claims typically stick with the house, or does it stick with both the house and the owner?
3 to 5 years, depending on the carrier. Edison and Florida Penn, even if you're selling the house, if you had a claim 3 years ago or 2 years ago, let's say, and you're selling the house to somebody else, when they try to get an Edison or Florida Penn policy, they're going to run a claims history on the house, and that new buyer will not be able to get insurance with them because of your claim. So that will affect the house for 5 years, essentially. Southern Oak, Cypress, most carriers will allow one water damage claim for the person, and they don't look at the house. Like, they're not going to say, oh, the house has prior claims, we're not going to write it. It really just comes down to the carrier.
Okay. So if somebody was to have a flood in their house, what would you tell them to do first and foremost? First and foremost,
Get pricing on to fix it. It's not always as much as you think. If you have tile floors and things like that, get a price first before you call the insurance company, because the worst thing that could possibly happen is you call the insurance company and the loss amount is right by your deductible or just below your deductible, or you end up only getting $1,000. I mean, essentially you get one freebie claim that's not going to kill you. And if you use it on something small like that, you're just wasting it. You're wasting it. So, you don't want to put through a frivolous small claim and then now, you have a claim on your record. If you're going to put through a claim, make sure that you actually need to first. So, get essentially a pricing. Now, if it's with Citizens, you have to call it in. That's a different story, because if you don't use Citizens directly, like I said, then you're not going to get your full water. So you're probably better off just calling Citizens directly right off the bat.
Yeah, I had a client that we had those rainstorms this past week, and their fence fell down, and they were like, "We're going to make a claim for the fence." And I said, "Don't do that. That's silly.
Right.
It's a fence." And these claims could go on for 2 years, and now you've got a claim open on your house. You
For
can sell it.
$6,000, let's say, and your deductible's $2,500. So let's just call it $6,000. So you're going to get a couple $1,000. And then the next claim that happens is, let's say, a $50,000 claim. And now, at least you can get insurance to Citizens, because you had two. If you had the first claim, then you would still be able to get insurance with most carriers with just one claim. So that's the problem. So I always tell people, be cautious before you go putting through a claim. I had a client put through a claim for a leaky toilet, and it was just a bad wax ring. So it was literally $500, and he put through the water damage claim, and then he had a claim for he had a fireplace, and the fireplace was leaking around the fireplace on the roof. Put through a claim for that, and then it turned out it was the roofer's fault. The roofer had to pay for it. But now he got non-renewed because he has two claims, even though they didn't pay anything out. He had to go with Citizens. It was almost double the price from the carrier that he was with.
And a lot of carriers won't pick you up.
Right. Yeah. I mean, Citizens is the only one. Once you get past one water damage claim, Citizens is the only one that'll write you. And then if you get 3, then they'll make you have an HO8 policy, which excludes water damage altogether. So it's like you really got to tread lightly with the claims.
Yeah, I had a claim for my own house, but when I went to get a new policy for my condo, which is a rental, and we put it through Edison, because I had a claim on a different house, they dropped me.
Absolutely. Yep, they will. It goes with the person, not the property. So it's like, that's the thing. It's either the person, it's actually both. It's the person and the property that they're purchasing. Even if you had never had a claim and the person that owned that condo prior to you had a claim, they still would have canceled it. That's how Edison and Florida Penn do it, unfortunately. I mean, not unfortunately, that's just their method. They actually were one of the few carriers to stay open this entire time, so I can't really trash them. Their business model worked. It's just, it's definitely a little bit onerous.
So if people are looking for an excellent insurance agent, somebody that really knows their stuff, how can they get a hold of you?
Call my office. Number is on the bottom. We also have a 954 number, 954-302-4531. I got a bunch of agents here. They all know almost as much as me, not quite as much. I've been around a little longer than them. But, I help them out. We get everything done, and we try our best to get everybody the best price and the best coverage for their money, the best value for their money. So.
He does. I have to say, I do swear by it. I know we have somebody in the audience. Dawn, do you have any questions about insurance? Like anything you heard about floods or making water claim?
I guess what's the difference between a flood policy for outside versus homeowners?
Okay, that's a good question. A lot of people do get confused about, and we just recently had some tremendous flooding in Fort Lauderdale, and the flood policy, which I learned, and some people learned the hard way, that it's only $250,000 no matter how much the house is.
Yeah.
And
you can do an excess, but it's hard to get nowadays.
Yeah. Well, probably, especially after what just happened. But then also, not only does it only just cover $250, it doesn't cover housing. So when you have nowhere to live, and mold is sure to grow in a flood home. So all these people got displaced. So the difference is, and Michael can explain it, between a flood policy and water damage inside your house is, I mean, I know it, but let's the expert tell us.
The way you got to look at it is water damage is going to be more like a man-made issue. Broken pipes, leaky roof, leaky air conditioner unit, backed up sewer lines, leaky windows, things like that. Just water intruding into the house, through some kind of opening. or through plumbing or sewer lines. Flood is going to be rising water. Noah's Ark, it rains and rains and rains. The water comes underneath the door. Storm surge is going to be flood as well from a hurricane. Storm surge from a hurricane is flood, not hurricane coverage. So, you got to take that into account too if you live on the water. But it's really the difference. That's what, one's, an act of God. The other is, more wear and tear, man-made type issue. So.
Well, I want to thank you so much for joining us tonight. And we do? Oh, she wants to know about deductibles.
Absolutely. What's your question on deductibles? How
deductibles work on your insurance. Like, typically, I would guess that if you had a claim and it was $50,000 and hurricane deductible is going to be totally different than a water claim
Absolutely.
deductible.
So you have an AOP deductible, which is a flat dollar amount, usually going to be $500, $1,000, $2,500, or $5,000 usually. Some carriers will go to 10, but a few. And then you have hurricane deductibles, which is a percentage of the dwelling. So, 2%, 5%, 10%. Banks will not allow a 10% deductible. So really that just gives you 2% and 5% if you have a mortgage. And then some carriers like Southern Oak will go down to a 1% deductible. That's really just for new construction, because if not, the pricing is just kind of too high. But a lot of times for new construction on a Pulte Homes or something like that, we'll do a 1% deductible because the difference is only a couple bucks. So,
okay.
And it's a percentage of the dwelling. So even if your loss is a partial loss, that deductible is still, if it's, 2% of $100,000, it's still that 2% of the $100,000. It's not 2% of the $50,000 loss. That's the thing. A lot of people don't understand that.
What about people who own their house? They don't need insurance?
Correct. If you own your home, you don't have to have insurance. Now, if you own a condo, some condos will require you that you have insurance, and they make you provide the deck page to them. But they've gotten very lenient on that. They used to ask you for it.
To enforce it. So they essentially they made the law, but they didn't give the condo associations any teeth to enforce it. But the problem is, if you don't have insurance, since Florida's a no-fault state, and the unit above you leaks into your unit next to you leaks into your unit, a lot of times you can't get coverage from their policy. That's why they want you to have your own policy with unit owner's coverage, because then now that covers you for the damage that the unit above you caused it to your unit. And then the insurance companies can just fight it out. They don't want tenants fight, they don't want, the unit upstairs fighting with the unit downstairs over money and suing each other. And then on top of that, you get liability coverage for the interior of your unit, which is important for the association because they don't want to be getting sued for somebody that got hurt in your unit. And then also it covers loss assessment. So when that loss is from a hurricane, fire, theft, vandalism, anything that's covered by your policy, it will pay for a special assessment from that loss. So, they'll usually bill out whatever the deductible is on their policy, and they'll say, okay, we're going to split it up between all the units, and then your policy will pay that. That way, they don't have to worry about you not paying it.
Oh, that's interesting. I didn't know it would pay for an assessment for a hurricane.
Right. It has to be a covered peril. So it has to be a covered peril on your policy in order to apply to that. It can't be like, oh, we're redoing the facade or, something like that. It can't be like a wear and tear type deal. It has to be an actual loss from a hurricane, fire, theft, or somebody trying to break in or something like that.
Right, kind of like, I don't know if you recall, but Windmore in Coconut Creek, the roof came off in a tornado a few years back.
Right. That would be exactly it.
And it only hit one building.
Yeah, let's say there's 25 units and they have a $25,000 deductible. So they would take that $25,000 deductible, divide it by the 25 units. Everybody would get a $1,000 assessment. Usually the loss assessment is between $2,000 and $5,000, if depending on the policy, and it would pay for that.
And that's the other thing. So, like I said, I was telling you this morning, the place that had the leak was in a condo, and he was saying to me, "Oh, well, somebody said it might be covered by the condo." I said, "Probably not, because that pipe was outside of the actual wall, and then it
Right.
damaged your floor, so you're responsible for your floor. They'll do the drywall
Right.
in, you got to do the paint
Right.
out. So
Right. They won't pay for anything inside your unit. That's why it's in the bylaws on all these condo associations that you're required to have insurance. Now, they don't enforce it, but if something happens, they're going to say, well, it was required and you didn't do it.
right.
So that's their get out of jail free card there.
Right. Well, we're definitely going to have you back again, Michael. You have a lot of great information. The time goes fast. So thank you, Michael, for coming out from Floridian. I cannot say that. Floridian Coastline Insurance. I call you all the time, so I should know that. But I just call you Michael. Anyway, thank you so much again for coming. And one more time, just give everyone your number and your website so that if they want to get the best insurance agent out there, they can reach you.
Absolutely. You can reach us at 954-302-4531 or the 866 number below. Our website is FloridianCoastlineInsurance.com. So you can find us on Google or whatever. It's pretty easy to find. Feel free to give us a call with any insurance questions.
Thank you so much and have a great night. And thank you for joining Making Money with Laura Sanders. Good night, everyone.
Thank you for tuning in for Making Money with Laura Sanders, a name you can trust. To join the conversation, call us at the studio, 888-994-4995 Studio A, or contact Laura directly at 954-650-0827. Laura Sanders, a name you can trust. We look forward to seeing you next week.